Hey guys, it's Vanessa from Kind Hearted Studio. Thanks for joining me. This class is 3 parts. So the first session, we are going to look at proportion and laying out the drawing. The second class will focus on color. And the third class is going to focus on line and adding all that detail. And so what you need to begin is, for the first session, you're going to need a pencil, eraser, ruler, and then you're going to decide what you're going to use. If it's pencil, crayon, or marker, you can use paper of any size. If you're going to use watercolor, you might want to start drawing on your watercolor paper. And then for the last lesson, all you'll need is just a pen or a thin black marker. Okay? Thanks, guys. And today we are going to talk about perspective and laying out the image. Your lines might tend to be a little bit wonky. Even when I look at this one, I still see some wonkiness in the angles. So for example, I'll just back this up for a second. So like this angle here, it's maybe a little bit too much tilted that way. Right, so there's a bit of offness. So my whole spiel is just enjoy the moment, go for it. Don't get caught up in what it looks like, and the angle might be a little bit off, but we can always fix it. And it's really just a process, okay? So we're just gonna have some fun. So today we're gonna talk about just placing out and angles and perspective. Next week, we'll look at color. So I encourage you guys just to use whatever materials and mediums that you have, your choice. You could use watercolor, which this is, and I'll talk about some different tricks with watercolor. So if you are choosing to do watercolor, just have some paper that you're drawing on. And then you can also use pencil, crayons, or markers, whatever you want to do, but we're also going to talk, or you can use regular paint and just paint on paper. It's entirely up to you. Anything goes. We'll talk about color and we'll fill it in the following week. And then the final week, we'll look at the line and we'll add some more detail in terms of our line and shape. So we'll get started. And the first thing that we want to do is you want to find your page, whatever you're drawing on, whatever size. Just grab your sketchbook or paper. And what we're going to do is we're going to come halfway down, find your halfway point, and then just go a little bit lower than half. Okay, and you're going to do a line all the way across. So that's going to be our horizon line. If we look here, what I've done is the horizon line comes through here. Okay. And so I'm going to make 2 little circles that are going to be the centers of these tree houses. So I've come on the edge of the line on the left side and the right side. I might move that one over a little bit. Okay. As we move through, you might decide that you have only space for 4 tree houses. You might decide that you're going to put 2 up higher, or you might have 3 down low. Anything goes. So everybody's is going to be the same, but slightly different. Okay, so if there's a space where you want to fill or add or remove, please do so. It's your drawing. Okay. All right. So from there, what we're going to do is we're going to just place in these 2 tree houses. So we're going to build up. I'll explain. So if I look here, this is the center. So that's the little dot that we did on the horizon line. And then we're going to build up from there. So when I look at these, I see just a lot of shapes. So I see a square with a triangle on top with kind of a square there and another rectangle and triangle. Okay, so that's really all we're going to be doing, is just breaking it down into basic shape. So if I come over here and I let this circle be the top of my square in which I add my treehouse. So if I come, my treehouse, my birdhouse. So you're just gonna add a square right below that. And so that circle should probably be about center. Okay, if it's more of a rectangle, that's fine. And then from there, we're going to add a triangle on top. So what I like to do is, in order to get that, so that it's not like a triangle over here, but to line it up, I'll just go from the center and I'll go up, make a little dot. And what that tells me is from here to there, that's where those points meet. So it just helps me placing it out so that it's more centered as opposed to a wonky triangle on top. Okay. So we all each have our own style of drawing, and I really want you to embrace your own style. I tend to be messy and I kind of like it being a little bit wonky. That's me, and I'm not very precise and detailed. So I don't really care if my lines are a little bit uneven or some are thicker and some are thinner, but just embrace your style, okay? So we've got the base of that built. And then we're gonna add the roof. So it's just a parallel line on top. So you're just coming right above. Like so. And your roof can end right at that horizon line. What we're gonna do is we're gonna add a little square on top. So not right at the edge here, but you're gonna go just you're just gonna go a little edge over, and it's gonna be just above that point. And then we're gonna do the rectangle on top. And then again, we're gonna put the roof on that. So what I like to do is just continuing up from the center, making a little dot, and then coming down to my sides. So you'll see that even as I work through this drawing will be the same, but it'll still be different than this one. And that's okay. All right, so then we're gonna go back over here to this dot, and we're gonna basically do the first two steps the same. So we're gonna do the square and the triangle exactly the same. So, and if you want, you can make it a little bit bigger, you can make it a little bit smaller. It's entirely up to you. One thing that I like to do in terms of like a tip on measurement, instead of using a ruler, I'll sometimes just use my finger and just kind of pinch out the space. So it's that big, okay, and then it's gotta be that big. If that makes sense. So we should have that done there. And a parallel line for our roof, so that's going to be very much the same. And then this one's a little bit different. We're going to add a chimney on the side. So right here on this right side, I'm going to add just a little rectangle. With another rectangle on top going the long way, the horizontal way. Okay. So then around those dots, we can make our circles. Okay, so there's our first two houses. And those are the easy ones. If we think of perspective, if we look at this guy, right? So this one's facing that way and that one's facing this way. So that means that the center, when we think about perspective, it's almost like this is your perspective point here, your vanishing point, and then it kind of goes back on a diagonal, right? So that you're getting a sense of depth. So I'll see if I can explain this well. So if we come down, let's kind of find the center of our page. Okay, and you can all right. So what we're going to do is we are going to take this dot, okay, and we're going to come down. So it's almost like you're creating, if you want to use a ruler, you can. You're going to create these angles and then another line coming just above the horizon line. So my two lines are about 1.5 inches wide. Okay, so all you're doing, there's your horizon line, there's your dot. You're gonna do one line like so, and then coming down a little bit, you're gonna do another line that way. Okay, so it almost looks as though the tree is shooting like a laser beam or something from that circle. Okay. Everybody good? All right. So this is going to be one of the bigger houses because it's up closer to us. So I'm going to start just towards the back of it, and I'm going to make just a line here and another line there. Okay, and then I'm going to make another line. So if this touches your center, that's okay. But I'm going to make another line as well. So this section here is going to be a little bit smaller than this section. Okay, and this is where the angle of our lines are going to be really important, this next step here. So we've got the angle here for the bottom. Now, if we want it to look as though it's on that angle, we want to come from the corner of where this line meets the bottom, and we're going to do a diagonal like so. Okay, so then that means that this line should also run parallel up here. So instead of going straight across, right, can you see the difference in that angle? It kind of starts at the bottom and goes up. So this line and point should be higher and that point should be lower. And so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start right where this line meets this top horizon line and go up on that angle. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, it looks a little bit funny now, but it'll make sense. Okay, so then what we're gonna do is we have that square done. You're gonna find the center of this line and come up, make your little dot and create your triangle. And so my dot is just above my horizon line, but it's gonna follow that kind of same angle. And then come down. So now what we're going to do is from this point, we're gonna kind of do the same thing, okay? So we're gonna go a little bit higher. Actually, yeah, let's go a little bit higher. So you're just shooting out from that dot there, and we're going up. And we'll continue with our halfway line there. Okay. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have this other one. just sit just above that treehouse. So I'm gonna make my lines. So that's gonna be the front. And I'm gonna make it relatively the same size. So I'm just gonna take my fingers, measure that out. And so it's gonna be about that size. And you know what? I might go rogue and just try to explain it without the lines because it's a little confusing. So this is the line that we have. So in this center line, what we're gonna do is we're gonna start and we're gonna curve it up just a little bit. So this line over here is gonna be slightly shorter. Okay, and then if we look on this side, we're gonna move that line up right here. Okay, so instead of being square and even, it's gonna have more of a diagonal. Do you see that? Okay, perspective is really tricky. And so just keep going. Don't worry if there's little things that might seem wonky or off. There's also some charm to that too, right? I like to describe these kind of like a roller coaster ride. Halfway through, you're like, get me off the ride. I'm not having fun. And then you finish and you're like, oh my gosh, that was so much fun. I want to go back on. So I still kind of get to the point midway through my artwork and I'm like, oh, I don't like this. This isn't very good. I should just give up. But as you keep going, it'll all come together. Okay, so now for this point, what we're going to do is if you have that line coming through, so if you see here, the line that I drew for the perspective, these lines are a little bit higher, but I'm just gonna find my midway, my center point, and come up, create my dot so that I can create a nicer triangle. Okay, so and so this might be a little trick too for you guys. If we look at the angle of the bottom here, what we can do is we can take our ruler, provided that you have some kind of sturdy hand, and you're gonna go up on that same angle, and there's the angle for the top. Okay, so you just wanna mirror the same angle. So if you wanna do that with your ruler, you can try. That might be a little tip to get you that angle. And then you can do the same for the angle here on the top of the roof. So if you take your ruler, right, There's the edge of the roof. There's my angle, and I'm just gonna push it back to where it meets the back side of the house. Okay. And then, so you have this line, that line, and then the top of our roof should be pretty much parallel with the top there. So the top should be parallel with this here. Okay, so it's that same sort of angle. Okay, and if we want to add the framing on the outside, we can do that. Okay, and then you're going to add 2 circles, one at the top and one at the bottom. Okay, and if we're going to add some posts in here, so we're just going to add 2 long lines on that one, and same on the house over here. And then for the house that we just did, it's going to be right at the corner where the 2 sides meet. And we're just going to create kind of a 3D look by creating another smaller line. So that's the space between these 2 lines are going to be shorter or less of a width. You guys are going to have to kind of maneuver this yourself. You're going to pick out a spot. So if I look here, I mean, I can put a house up here if I want to. I can maybe make it more lower if I want a bigger sky. So it's really up to you, wherever you want to place the house. And if you think, I don't want to do this one, I'm going to skip it. Now, that being said, I have to be careful on that, because if you place it higher, the angle is going to be a little bit different as opposed to if you place it lower, right? Because if our vantage point, if we're viewing here, and our perspective of a house up here, we're going to see that differently than down here. Okay, so either follow along with one up here, or if you don't have the space or something, then maybe just leave it and skip this step. Okay, So this, we're gonna do the blue house now. And so if you look at it, it's on a much higher, it's much higher than the horizon level. So we see the bottom of it a lot differently, okay? So we see more of that. So I'm not gonna put the lines in because I think it's hard to teach you guys with the lines, but I think I'm just gonna do the angles, okay? If that makes sense. So what I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna just draw in a rectangle here. Okay, so I want enough space that I'm gonna draw the rest of the house over on this side. Okay, so we have that. Now, if we take these corner pieces down to the center of our circle there, and if you want to use your ruler, you can do that. Let me see if that's gonna.
When you're drawing rectangles and things, can you point out on the picture itself what it is you're drawing? Because
Yeah,
when you say we're drawing a rectangle, I don't know if we're drawing the front, the bottom, the side. So I'm not sure how to picture it in my head.
yeah, thank you for that
Thanks.
tip.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
No, thank you. Okay, so let me back up. So we are doing the top here. So this rectangle there, that's what we're gonna build up. So I have my rectangle. Okay, and I'm gonna actually get rid, I'm not gonna explain those lines. So we're gonna change. So if we look at this and see that it's straight across, what we wanna do is we're gonna change the angle a bit and we're gonna extend it down. So then this line's gonna come down a little bit farther. Okay, and then we're gonna do the same with the line at the top. So this line on the left-hand side should go up a little bit and connect down to the other side. Okay, does that make sense? So those angles and lines are roughly the same. Okay, and then I'm gonna do the triangle on the top to finish off the house. So I'm gonna go to the center of that and I'm gonna just come up a little bit, make my dot, and then attach. Okay. Now we're gonna do the underside. Actually, what we'll do first is we're just gonna leave, we're gonna create another line over for the side. And so if I run it parallel with this line and just move over, So this is where it gets a little bit confusing. So remember here how we had the line going straight across, right? And we extended that down a little bit longer. Now, if we continue this across like we did over here, we want to extend the left side of this line down a little bit longer. Okay, so what happens is that we're seeing more of the bottom side of this tree house because our vantage point is down here. Okay, so you know when you look up at something, you see that kind of bottom edge of it. That's what's happening. So from that point, you're just going to extend that line a little bit lower and create that angle there. So this is one of the harder parts of the drawing. So okay, and if you have a ruler or a piece of paper or something, you can match it up. So there is my angle, and I'm just gonna keep coming up, 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 and I'm gonna come to the corner of my triangle, and that should kind of be the same angle as it is down here. So those two should pretty much match. And same with over here. That should match this way. Okay, I'll try to do that with one hand. And then our bottom, so if I take my same ruler, find the angle there. So I'm matching it up, and then I'm just gonna push it, oops, push, and until I meet, or maybe it was that angle that I did first, sorry. So I have the angle there, then I'm gonna come down, I'm gonna find the corner there, and then I'll draw my line across. Okay, if you don't have a ruler, you can also just kind of look. And so you want this point to be higher than that point. Now, the roof on this one tends to be a little bit trickier. So let me grab it first. So if we look here, there's not a lot of roof there, right? It doesn't go straight across. It goes on a really big angle, right? So if you can use your ruler if you can, push all the way up, and then at that corner, it might just look something like that. Okay, we'll touch this up next week and add a little bit more detail to it. Okay. Now for our stick, we're gonna do a small little line, right, kind of in the center of that. And we're gonna go down. And I will record this so you guys, if you're not quite grasping something because maybe I'm going too fast, or maybe you just want to rewatch it to see and try out an angle, you can come back and watch it and maybe try another drawing or, okay. And then I'm gonna add another line and it's gonna be wider than this one that I just did. Okay, so as we finish off this line, so here on this, you want to follow the same angle as that line. And then you're following the same angle as this line. Okay, so instead of coming up and going straight across, you want it to angle and follow that same. Okay, and we're gonna do one more. Okay, so I'm gonna come and I'm gonna place this one just over here. So it can either be, I have a lot of space here, so I'm just gonna find it and I'm gonna place it right about here. Okay, so I'm gonna do a long rectangle, horizontal. Okay, and I'm gonna drop this line here, the right side. I'm gonna drop that a little bit. And from this point, I'm gonna connect. Okay, and so that is going to be the same up here. So I'm gonna take this line and it should be shorter on the right side. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, and this house is going to be a little bit longer than it is the width. So I'm just gonna make that a little bit wider. So I'm gonna do another line down. Okay, so we're doing the greenhouse and we're gonna change the angle slightly. We're not gonna see as much of the bottom because it's not as high. And then we're just gonna angle that down just a little bit. Okay, and then we're gonna do the top of the treehouse or birdhouse. I keep calling it a treehouse. So you're gonna find the center and you're gonna go up, make your dot, and then on each side, come down. Okay, so if I look at this line, it's not quite straight. It's got a little bit of a diagonal. And the post is going to be kind of in the center. And it's going to have the smaller edge on it towards the right side.